of difference of two squares. Or, sorry, difference of two cubes. So it's either a difference of two cubes or it's a sum of two cubes. So in this case, hopefully you guys can agree that this is in the format of a cubed minus b cubed. That is the format. You can see it's a cube number minus another cube number. Well, the factored form of this is a minus b times a squared plus a times b plus b squared. OK? So to be able to evaluate this, what we first need to do is, or to factor this, first thing we need to do is actually figure out what a and b are. Now, we are asking to solve. So we know when solving, we always want to make sure we have all of our variables set onto one side and it's set equal to 0, right? Unless it's like a linear equation and there's only one variable. So I'm going to replace this with 0. Now, for your homework, though, all I asked you guys to do was to figure out the factored form. So if this is, do you guys see how this is a binomial? Yes? Yes? And you might not agree if it's a cubed minus b cubed. So let's go and take a look. If I say a cubed, if I was going to say this term minus that term, then I'm going to say a cubed is 64x cubed. And we'll do b cubed over here. B cubed is then 1. It's a cubed minus b cubed. So a cubed is 64x cubed, and b cubed is 1. Does everybody see that? Yes? No? Yes. OK. So for this one, if I want to figure out what b is, because I got to plug in b. Does everybody see that? I got to plug in b. So I need to figure out what b is. So I'll take the cube root to undo the cubing. And the cube root of b cubed is just b. So what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives you 1? 1. Good. So b equals 1. Now we need to do the same over here. The cube root of a is just going to give us a. So therefore, now I have cube root of 64. So what number multiplied by itself 3 times goes ahead and gives us 64?
I have a question about how you got 1. Is it 1 or negative 1?
It's going to be 1 because remember, it's a cubed minus b cubed. So the minus is just separating the two terms. We're only focused on a cubed and b cubed. OK? Yes? It's 4. And let's double check our answer. 4 times 4 is 16. Times 4 is 64. And then what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives us x cubed? Or what variable multiplied by itself 3 times gives us x cubed? X. Does everybody see that? Yes? I'm actually going to use a little color coding. How about we replace this with a red? I'm going to replace this with a 1. OK, so now to go ahead and do this, to write this in factored form, this is all I asked you guys to do for your homework. You're just going to plug in a. You're just going to plug in 4x in for a. I always like to put in parentheses. And then put in 1 in for b. Does everybody see that? How I plugged in 4x and 1? So therefore, then that's times a squared. So that's going to be 4x squared plus a times b plus b squared. Does everybody see how I just plugged in a and b? Does everybody see that? Now we just go ahead and simplify. So this is all you guys had to do for your homework. That's 4x minus 1 times 4x squared is 4x times 4x. 4 times 4 is 16. X times x is x squared. So that's 16x squared plus 4x times 1 is 4x plus 1 squared is 1. That's all you guys had to do for your homework. That's it. OK? But now, for your homework tonight, we want to go a step further. Because now, what they're actually asking is to solve. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if we have the product of two factors set equal to 0, we can apply which property? Anybody remember? Starts with the 0 product property, right? So I could say 4x minus 1 equals 0, and 16x squared plus 4x plus 1 equals 0. Cool. Well, this one's easy. I just add 1 to both sides. 4x equals 1. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. X equals 1/4. Cool. Got it. Right? Everybody's OK with that? This one's a little bit more difficult. We have a quadratic set equal to 0. Now, first thing I want to do is see if I could factor this, right? What two numbers, if you did your a times c, is there any two numbers that multiply 16 times 1, but then also add to give you 4? Or is any two numbers that multiply to give you 16 but add to 4? No. So guess what? If we can't factor it, there's two things we could do. We could either complete the square, or we could use the, do you have a question?
Yeah. How would you get from 4x squared to 16x squared?
4x squared is equal to 4x times 4x. 4 times 4 is 16. X times x is x squared. Right? Remember, anything squared is it's being multiplied by itself. So we'd have to use the quadratic formula. If you guys remember the quadratic formula, the solutions of the quadratic formula are opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So now, do we know what a is? A is 16. Do we know what b is? B is 4. Do we know what c is? C is 1. Now, so you have an extra step. You guys see how these are a little bit more intensive than what I just asked you for your homework? But hopefully you guys already did half the work. So now you plug in the information and we go ahead and solve. So we have opposite of b plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times 16 times 1 all over 2 times a, which is 16. So we go ahead and solve here. So we have 16. 4 squared is going to be 16. 4 times negative 4 times 16 is going to be 32. It's going to be 64 times 1. So we have 16 minus 64 is going to be a negative 48. Does everybody follow me with this? Or do I need to show a little bit more work? I'm getting really quiet responses right now. Does anybody want me to show those steps? Yes? OK. Sure. X equals negative 4 plus or minus. 4 squared is 16. Does everybody agree with me that negative 4 times 16 times 1 is negative 64? 2 times 16 is 32. Does everybody agree with me on that step? Then I do 16 minus 64, which is negative 48, right? So I have x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 48 divided by 32. Now, can we simplify negative 48? We know we cannot take the square root of a negative number, right? So we have to include I. Yes. So I'll do that over here. So negative 48, you guys can see how this is bringing around all of this math that we learned. So I can simplify this as well. 16 times 3 times negative 1. Square root of 16 is 4. We can't take the square root of 3, so we're going to leave that under the radical. And the square root of negative 1 is I. Yes? OK. So I'm going to put this work over here. X equals negative 4 plus or minus 4i divided by the square root of 3 all over 32. Now remember that 32 divides into both of those terms, correct? So can we simplify 4 over 32? Can we reduce that fraction? Yes, we can divide that in that. We can simplify that to 1 over 8. So your final answer for this solution is x equals negative 1 plus or minus I square root of 3 over 8. That's one solution. That's your other solution. So therefore, there are how many solutions in this case? How many total solutions do we have? 3. We have 1 real, and we have 2 complex. Correct? Yes? How many x-intercepts would we have for this graph? No, we'd have 1, right? The number of real solutions is the number of x-intercepts. We have to have 3 solutions because we know that the power is 3, right? So there's a total of 3 solutions, but 2 of them are complex. OK? Yes? No? You're probably not going to have enough work on your sheet of paper to go ahead and do that.